So welcome to this series of reading all books to you. So maybe you're just walking down the street or driving your car and you want to kind of study your book, but you don't want to actually read it because you really don't have time for reading, but you probably have time for listening. So this series is going to be really beneficial for you. Simply going to read the book for you, and I hope that my sound is clear enough and you're going to get the idea in a very simple way. The book we have today is called Making Strategy Work. It's a Wharton School publication by Lawrence Hreniniak, something like that. Sorry for the name, it's kind of difficult. Um, Now the book is large somewhat, so I'm not gonna tell you much about it. I'll start with the first chapter. Um, I'm just hoping it's gonna work well. Now this book focuses on a critical management issue, making strategy work or executing strategy effectively. Theories and advice about requisites of good planning and strategy formulation abound in management literature. A vast array of planning models and techniques has been paraded before managers over the years, and managers, for the most part, understand them and know how to use them effectively. Now, the problem with poor performance typically is not with planning, but with doing. That is, strategies often aren't implemented successfully. Making strategy work is more difficult than strategy making. Now, sound plans flounder or die because of lack of execution. It's like the know-how. This book focuses on execution, the processes, decisions, and actions needed to make strategy work. Now, what differentiates this book from others beyond its emphasis on a critical management need? I'm excited about the present approach to execution for the six following reasons. Now, first one is learning from experience. This book is based on data. It borrows from the experiences of hundreds of managers actually involved in strategy execution. There are multiple sources of data which ensures complete coverage of execution-related issues. This book doesn't rely on the armchair musings of a few people relating announced anecdotes. It's based on real-world execution experiences, problems, and solutions, including mine over the last 2 decades. What you need to lead is. The focus of the book is on the knowledge, skills, and capabilities managers need to lead execution efforts. Its content is action and results oriented. Now, most organizations recruit, train, and retrain good managers. They are staffed by good people, even great people. Most managers are motivated and qualified people who want to perform well. Even good people, however, can be hampered by poor incentives, controls, organizational structures, and company policies, or operating procedures that inhibit their ability to execute and get things done. Now, even great leaders in top management positions will fail if they're not well versed in the conditions that affect execution success. Managers need to understand what makes strategy work. Intuition and personality simply aren't sufficient. Given such a complex task, this book focuses on the knowledge and the capabilities and insights leaders need for execution success. Now, the big picture in this book, I develop a unifying, integrated approach on execution. I focus on the big picture as well as nitty-gritty of the execution process and methods. I spell out a logical approach to execution and the relationships among key execution decisions. Now, this book not only identifies these key factors and their relationships, but also goes into detail on each of the factors needed for execution success. It provides an important integrated approach on execution and dissects the approach to focus on its key elements, actions, and decisions. Now, this book then provides both an overview of the execution process and an in-depth reference manual for key aspects of this process. Now, leading successful execution efforts usually demands the effective management of change, and this book integrates important change management issues into its treatment of execution. Now, this book discusses power, influence, and resistance to change. It focuses on real and practical change related issues such as whether to implement execution-related changes quickly, all at once, or in a more deliberate and sequential fashion over time. I tell you why speed skills and explain how large, complex changes can severely hurt execution outcomes. I focus on the details of cultural change in the organizational power structure and how they can be used to make strategy work. Now, applying what you learn, this book practices what it preaches. Now, the final chapter shows how to apply the logic, um, insights, and practical advice of preceding chapters to a real, huge, and pervasive problem. Um, Making mergers and acquisitions M&A work. Now, M&A strategies often flounder or fail. My last chapter explains why this is the case and how to increase the success of M&A efforts. I mean by like mergers and acquisitions, by applying the book's approach to execution. Also, I highlight the utility of the book's advice and guidelines when trying to make M&As, mergers and acquisitions, efforts successful. I feel it's only fitting and proper to end an execution book on a positive and useful note by showing how practical execution can be in confronting an important and pervasive real-world issue, and how it can save management a lot of time, effort, and money. Now, the bottom line. Finally, the reasons above taken together distinguish this book significantly from other recent works, such as Paucity, Insured and Execution, Crime Business 2002. This book covers more of the important factors and decisions related to successful execution. It offers an empirically based, integrative, complete approach to making strategy work and focuses more extensively on managing change than other publications dealing with implementation. Now, the bottom line is that my book greatly adds to the follows, it follows logically, Paucity, Insurance, Execution. It's an important and necessary addition to the toolkit of managers looking to execute strategy and change effectively. Now, leading execution and change to make strategy work is a difficult and formidable task. For the 6 reasons I have listed, I believe this task can be made more logical, manageable, and successful by the present book's approach and insights. Now, I'm going to skip a few things written here by the writer because this is not a point of the book, and we'll be moving on to strategy execution. 2 decades ago, I was working with the Organizational Effectiveness Group in AT&T's new Customer Products Division, a business created after the court-mandated breakup and reorganization of the company in 1984. I remember one particular day that made an impression on me that would last for years. I was talking to Randy Tobias, the head of the division. I had met Randy while doing some work for Illinois Bell, and here we were talking about the division's strategic issues and challenges. Now, Randy later moved into chairman's office at AT&T and then became a successful CEO of Eli Lilly. Now, but these comments that day, years ago, were the ones that affected me most. Now, here was a new business thrust headlong into the competitive arena. Competition was new to AT&T and at that time. Now, competitive strategy for the business was non-consistent, and Tobias was laboring to create the elusive original plan. He focused on products, competitors, and industry forces and how to position the new division into the marketplace. He handled expectations and demands from corporate as he forged a plan for the business and helped position it in an AT&T portfolio. He created a strategic plan where previously there had been none. It's kind of Herculean task and one well done at that time. Now, On that day, I recall asking Randy what was the biggest strategic challenge confronting the business. I expected that this answer would deal with the problem of strategy formulation or some competitive threat facing the division. Now, his answer surprised me. He said that strategy formulation, while extremely challenging and difficult, was not what concerned him the most. It was not the planning that worried him, it was something even bigger and more problematic. It was the execution of strategy that concerned him above all else. Now, making the plan work would be an even bigger challenge than creating the plan. Execution was the key to competitive success, but it would take some doing. I, of course, sought further clarification and elaboration. I can't remember all of his points in response to many questions, but here are some of the execution challenges he raised that day, referring to his own organization. He mentioned the following. Now, the culture of the organization and how it was not appropriate for the challenges ahead. Incentive and how people have been awarded for seniority or getting older, not for performance or competitive achievement. Now, the need to overcome problems with traditional functional silos in the organization structure. And finally, the challenges inherent in managing change is the division adapted to new competitive conditions. Now, this was the first elaboration of executive-related problems I had ever heard, and the message had stayed with me over the past years. It became clear to me that day that it also struck me in those early days with AT&T that although execution is a key to success, it's no easy task. Here was a company with an integrated culture and structure, a set way of doing things for the company to adapt to its new competitive environment. Major changes would be necessary, and those changes would be no simple cakewalk. Obviously, developing a competitive strategy wouldn't be easy, but the massive challenges confronting the company made it clear to me early on that day. Execution is critical to success, and it represents a disciplined process or a logical set of connected activities that enables an organization to take a strategy and make it work. Now, without a careful plan approach to execution, strategic goals cannot be attained. Developing such a logical approach, however, represents a formidable challenge to management. Now, even with careful development of an execution plan at the business level, execution success is not guaranteed. To buy a strategic and execution plan for the customer products division were well thought out, yet troubles plagued the division's progress. Now, why is that? The problem was with the entire AT&T's corporation. The company was about to go through a huge metamorphosis that is simply was not equipped to deal with and work with and simply make it work. Now, execution plans at the business level founder or fail if they don't receive corporate support. AT&T was at that time a slow-moving behemoth or something, sorry, which change was vehemently resisted. Now, well-prepared and logical plans at the consumer products business level were hampered by a poor corporate culture and Tobias' insights and potentially effective execution. Actions were blunted by corporate interior and incompetence. Now, I think that's the first part. You may move on to the second part. Thank you for listening.